So Ahab finally makes a stand. He finally makes a stand. And in 20, 10 and 11 we read, 20, 10 and 11, it says, and Ben-Hesed said unto him, the gods do so unto me, and more, if the dust of Samaria shall suffice for a handful of thy people that follow me. And the king of Israel answered, tell him, let not him that girdeth on his harness boast himself, as he that pulleth it off. Ahab had finally had enough. Ben-Hadad had demanded his wife, his children, his silver and his gold, and he said, okay, take them, because he was too scared to fight. In the end, Ahab realised that no matter what he gave Ben-Hadad, he was going to have more, he's going to ask for more and more. And he made a stand. There comes a time in our Christian life when we have to say, enough is enough. I'm going to take no more. I watched a programme on television this morning actually, and it was talking about these this Christian man that refused to rent his home to a homosexual couple because he was a Christian, and he was suing them. And they said, well, they ought to obey the law of the land. Well, I say, yes, we should obey the law of the land, but we have to obey the law of God first. And we have to obey the higher God of the law. The law of this land, the most they can do is put you in prison for life. Break the law of God and you can spend eternity in hell. Eternity is a lot longer than life on earth. Eternity goes over billions and billions of years. No one lives that long natural. So we have to realise that yes, we have to obey the law of the land, but not when it violates the law of God. Daniel refused to obey the law of the land when they forbid him to pray. Shadrach, Meshach and Abednego refused to obey the law of the land and bow before the idols. Now they obeyed the law, but not when it violated the law of God. Yes, we should obey the law of God and pay our taxes. Men that under Caesar, the things that are Caesar. We should obey the law of the land when we're driving our car and keep to the speed limits. We should obey the law of the land, but when that law violates the law of God, then we cannot obey it. As Christians, we cannot openly allow homosexuals to come in and into our house and commit sodomy. We can't allow it. As Christians, I cannot allow my children to take part in Islamic prayers. Now someone says you would go to prison for that. Well, maybe I could. But Christianity survived because of martyrs, because of people that refused to bow. Many were burnt at the stake because they wouldn't compromise. All the apostles suffered martyrdom. Paul was beheaded. Peter was crucified upside down. Many of them were flayed alive. There comes a time that, okay, you could go to prison, so what? So have thousands of Christians throughout history gone to prison. And many of them are being persecuted in other countries. And the persecution of Christians is only around the corner. In fact, it's here and it's going to get worse. And we're going to have to say enough is enough. As Shadrach, Meshach and Abednego said, okay, throw me into the fiery furnace. I'd rather go in the fiery furnace than bow before that idol. Daniel said, I'd rather be a food for the lions than refuse to pray to my God. And we're going to have to take that attitude. Enough is enough. I will not bow. I will not surrender. I will not sell. Now when Ahab made a stand, God moved. When you and I are prepared to make a stand, God will move. You stand with God and He'll stand with you. For we read in verse 12, and it came to pass that when Ben-Hadad heard the messages he was drinking, he and the kings of his pavilion, that he said unto his servants, set yourselves in array. And they set themselves in array against the city. And behold, there came a prophet unto Ahab, the king of Israel, saying, thus saith the Lord, as thou hast seen all this great multitude, behold, I will deliver it into thy hands this day, and thou shalt know that I am the Lord. Notice God didn't speak when Ahab was willing to surrender his wife and his family and his gold and his silver. God will not stand by those that compromise, those that run away. But when Ahab said, enough is enough, I will not compromise, I will not bow down, I will not give any more. When he was prepared to stand with God, God stood with him and sent a prophet. And you can read in the chapter how that Ahab won the battle. But Ahab made one big mistake. He did not destroy the king of Syria. He let him live. He made a deal with him. And as a result of that, he was under judgment. And we read in the prophet's rebuke in chapter 20, and we read in verse 42, and he said unto him, thus saith the Lord, because thou hast let go out of thy hand a man whom I appointed out of destruction, therefore thy life shall go out for his life, and thy people for his people. In other words, I told you to destroy Ben-Hadad, but you let him live. You won the battle, but you let the king go, and you made a covenant. Therefore, because you let him go, I will take your life. And Ahab knew that when a prophet spoke, it would come to pass. So he goes back to his place. He's fearful now. He's worried. Because now he looks like he's going to die. Because God said he's going to die. And then we come to pass. Then we read it. And it came to pass after these things, the things we just mentioned, that Naboth the Jezreelite had a vineyard by the palace of Ahab, the king of Samaria. So just get the picture here. Ahab's come back. He's now fearful. God had promised him victory over Syria, and he gave him victory over Syria. But because he didn't obey, God said, I will take your life. So he's walking around, he's worried. He's depressed now. He knows his life's coming to an end. And in a time of resentment, he's looking for something to take his mind off. And as he walks from the palace, he sees this vineyard that belongs to Naboth. And he says, that's just what I need to get my mind. I will take that vineyard and I'll make it into a herb garden. I'll offer him a good price for it. That's what he needs. So now we're going to take a look at various scenes. Ahab in the palace. He's depressed. He's worried. He just needs a hobby. And he looks on the vineyard and he desires it. That's the scene one. Let's take a look at scene two now. Ahab now approaches Naboth. In verse 2 we read it. He approaches Naboth.